So I'm ready. So,
Shall we start the program, sir? Yes, sir.
yes.
Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha.
Okay,
Anjana, ma'am.
good morning, all, and welcome back to the fifth day of Phase 2 of AICT sponsored 1 week online short term training program on an induction program for young teachers. Hope all are fine and safe. Today's morning session will be handled by Mr. Rishikesh KB, Research Associate, IAM, Calicut, on the topic hybrid learning. An alumnus of Delhi School of Economics, Mr. Rishikesh KB has qualified MPhil, MCom, MBA, and UGC NET in Commerce and Management subjects. Currently pursuing PhD and works as faculty at Christ University, Bangalore. Worked with SRCC, Providence Women's College, FIMS, and as Senior Research and Publications Associate at IIM Kozhikode. Published articles in many reputed journals and presented papers at national and international conferences. Invited as resource person at faculty development programs, academics, and corporate workshops. A lifetime member at professional bodies like All India Commerce Association, All India Management Scholars Association, All India Management Association, and Sadhguru Sangeeta Sabha. He has also penned in the New India Express and the Hindu newspapers, and also has a book translated to his credit. He runs a discussion forum, Let's Chat, and a YouTube channel named Learner's Loop. Adding to his credits, he has completed several online non-credit courses too. We are really honored to have you here, sir. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. Over to the speaker.
Thank you very much for that kind and generous introduction. Let me just start sharing the screen right now. Is my screen visible, ma'am? Hello?
Yes, sir. Getting shared, sir. It's it to share.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So a few quick questions before I begin. Are the participants repeating? Like, is this the second time that you're listening to me? Because these things are important. We are going to spend probably around 2 hours with together. So a couple of things I wanted to ensure. I hope there aren't many.
No, sir. Not the same. Not the same. Not the same, sir. Not the same.
Okay, that's one. And what's the general heterogeneity of the group? Most of them, are they faculties? And if they are, from which discipline are they? Like,
Yes, sir.
okay. Are they
From both engineering arts.
Okay, engineering, and I didn't hear the.
From both engineering and arts.
Okay, okay,
Arts and science also, sir. Arts and science. Arts and science.
okay. So a warm good morning to all of you once again from my side. Um, so, I've just used a slide of Steve Jobs, which I like very much because he hates PowerPoint presentations. But for me, I like PowerPoint because you can actually create powerful presentations through, especially an online platform. But one thing at the outset I wish to share is I won't be sharing any of the PowerPoint that I use for this discussion. So in the course of discussion, if there is anything that you wish to, let's say, make a note, please do that. For those who've attended my earlier session, they might know I do bring in a lot of references during the course of discussion, mostly books and articles, a few suggestions to read. So please do keep yourself ready, keep the logistics ready to kind of keeping or maintaining a record of whatever you find is interesting to be noted. Yeah. So that's the first thing. And I hope I don't need to explain much about the metaphor of the sunflower. Okay, so let me just repeat what I might have used this in the earlier class, but I'm just using this image to communicate something which I learned from a sunflower farmer. Every alternate month, I have this habit of driving back to Calicut, because currently, as introduced, I work with Christ University, Bangalore. So whenever I get time, I drive back. We come back to Calicut. And on the way back, there is this place called Gundalpet. On either side, you would find a lot of, farming. You'll find a lot of, sometimes it could be vegetables. It's quite seasonal. Sometimes they also do sunflower farming. So I once decided to step down and have a chat with the farmers over there. And those maybe around 20 minutes of conversations were life insights which they had given. And those are people not with any PhD or a postdoc or an academic qualification. Some of them are even school dropouts. But the kind of ideas that they had shared, the kind of insights that they gave was brilliant. One of which is, this is how a sunflower would look like on a bright day. Yeah, sunflower looks very bright, but there's a counter question. How does it look on a day when it is about to rain? How does it look like on a cloudy day? Any responses to this? Any quick answers? Now, on a cloudy day, it is said that the sunflower would be facing down. Is it? That's what I also thought. But this farmer says on a sunflower, or on a bright day, on a dull day, sorry, on a dull day or on a day when it is expected to rain, these sunflowers would look at each other. They would be drawing energy from each other, is what they were telling. They would be phasing towards each other. So I think that's a metaphor with which I believe I can begin this conversation, because on a bright day, when the world was normal, we all were busy with our work. We all were busy, shining in whatever spheres that we have chosen. But on a dull day, what we are doing is we are trying to draw energy from each other. We are trying to learn from each other. And this one platform, I'm really thankful to the management of Vedavyasa, is another modest attempt to learn from each other, draw energy from each other. So I normally begin with this CLOBES experiential learning as well. just like I used the earlier slide. Look, this is normally taught in engineering, not in engineering, in management, but also in education. Globe's experiential learning cycle. Now, I'm sure the collective wisdom of all the faculties who are there online today probably is about 200 or 300 years or even more of wisdom that you all have acquired through your education, through your learning, from your experience. So what I'm going to deliver is probably much less than what, the collective knowledge that you all possess. But what I'm trying to say is all of us are here with concrete experience. We all have assembled here. We all have come online today to learn from each other with a lot of experience. Experience from your education, experience from your life, from your experiments. So that's number one of Globe's experiential learning cycle. We all have concrete experience. And what are we doing now? We're trying to reflect and observe, looking at what we are doing and what we are not doing, both in our personal as also in our professional life. Now, it's a reflective observation. So this webinar or this workshop is more of a reflective observation. As I said, we all come with concrete experience. We are here to sit back and reflect on what we are doing and what we are not doing. That's the second phase as per Globe's experiential learning. Now, there's a third phase. What was the intention behind this workshop? The very purpose of this workshop is to conceptualize ideas. We wish to learn from each other. We wish to get abstract and concrete ideas and conceptualize it, learn newer things. And what we end up doing is go back whenever the life gets normal. Probably there is no old normal. We are expecting a new normal, and go back and experiment and probably repeat this whole process of attending some other workshop or some other seminar, some other conferences, and learn from each other. So that's exactly what we all are here for. And therefore, as I said, there are a couple of things which I would insist. Number one, don't expect the PowerPoint. You have to take your own notes. I would be making a lot of references, references of books, references of articles, references of, let's say, some reading materials. So please do make a note of it if you find it interesting. It's not a compulsion, but since the option of copying it from a PowerPoint is there, I would therefore recommend you to keep a pen and pencil. And I also thought this time I'll make it a little experiential with a few activities. So be prepared for that too. And if you have any questions, my humble request is please do reserve all your questions for 2 sessions. What I've done is this session is split into 2. After 1 hour, probably about 11 a.m., I'll be pausing for some time so that I get a break and also I get to listen as to what you are expecting from this workshop. And I'll try to address those questions in the midway. And then once I complete the entire presentation, if we still have time, if your institution permits, we can have a question answer session. We can have an experience sharing session towards the end as well. So please do reserve all your questions in whenever I take a pause or probably towards the end. So that's the request. Otherwise, yeah, it's good to go. So one of the prime intention behind this little conversation is to identify root causes. There is in management, I'm sure it is there even in engineering, there is something called root cause analysis. So I'm just trying to, it's just my attempt. It is just my way of approaching things. I could be right or wrong. You could correct me if I'm going wrong, if I've quoted in anything, if I've misquoted anything. So it's a kind of an open platform. You could, I don't want to place myself at a higher pedestal and give big lectures, but it's more about, as I said at the beginning, it's about learning from each other. So please do feel free to correct me, rectify, ask questions, because the intention here is to do a root cause analysis, and I'm proceeding in the way, in a style in which I find is comfortable, but you could certainly raise your questions. Now, what is root cause analysis? Anything will have a root cause. Any challenge will have a root cause. Any problem, any crisis that we have will have a root cause. There's no point blaming each other. There were occasions when COVID-19 came, country heads had started blaming each others. But there is some other primary problem which has led to this crisis. Similarly, today, if there are any challenges in the space that we are all working, we all are, I'm assuming, in the field of academics, in education sector. So there might be a lot of challenges that we come across, especially post-pandemic. This is the first time ever in my life I'm having this sort of a house arrest since the lockdown for almost 8 months now. Just probably in another 3 or 4 months, all of us are in a house arrest for almost a year. One whole year we are sitting at home. But still, our life is going in another new normal. We are having classes online. We are conducting workshops like this online. The offices across the globe are functioning. So there are lots of newer challenges that we come across. But unless and until we understand the root causes of these challenges, root causes of the problems that we address, we won't be able to deal with it or probably navigate through in a manner that we actually intend to. So we're trying to, it's an attempt, this little conversation or this little workshop is an attempt to understand certain root causes. Because what is visible outside is more of the consequences. Now, this webinar is a consequence of the collective effort of a couple of faculties and the entire administration, which has made it possible. So what we are seeing is only a consequence, but I'm sure there has been a lot of effort to connect with people across, both in terms of finding the appropriate faculties and also coordinating and connecting with the interested participants. So what you are seeing is only the consequence, and this is true with any case. What we witness outside is only the consequence, but there could be certain problems that we all have addressed. And that problem begins with certain causes. So my attempt here is, as I said, is to identify causes of certain challenges that we are facing, both in our life. When I say life, it includes both personal as also professional life. All right. So that's the broader premise on which I would begin the discussion. And as I did last time, I'm dividing the presentation into two. And how that division is, probably in the due course of our discussion, you will get to know. But let me begin with an example which I had used. Now, this is a car with artificial intelligence embedded in it. And it does recruitment of its technician without the help of any other human beings. There is zero human intervention in the process of technician interview or selection, which is done entirely or only by the car itself. And this car is known as HR90, and it's launched by Volvo. What I'm trying to say is technology has advanced to such an extent that a lot of things that we were doing earlier may not require our presence. Technology has grown to such an extent that they are capable of doing things on their own. Now, that's actually a major threat, because A lot of jobs that for which we are grooming our students, a lot of jobs that we are currently doing may or may not be relevant in a span of, if we go by the studies of World Economic Forum, studies of McKinsey, studies done by Bloomberg, and almost all the major research in the field of science and technology, the predictions are that by 2025, and the max is 2030, a lot of jobs is likely to get redundant. A lot of jobs are going to become outdated. It will get wiped out, or it will get replaced with technology. One example I've quoted here. Now, it's here that the website willrobotstakemyjob.com becomes relevant. There is a website called Will Robots Take My Job? And it's an interesting portal wherein you just enter what job you are doing, and this website shows you the possibilities of, or the prospects of, that job getting outdated or getting automated, and in how many years will it get automated. All those details you will find in this website. It's very interesting. You could type lecturer or a professor, you could type technician, you could type lawyer, you could type doctor, any profession. This website gives you the details. Now, and it not just gives you the details, it would categorize it as it would categorize the automation risk level as totally safe, which means there is zero automation, no worries, robots are watching, and you are completely doomed. So those are the categorization. Those are the categorizations which would get revealed once you enter the job profile in this website. Now let me quote one more example. There is a hotel called Flyzoo. Jack Ma, the owner of Alibaba, had started this chain of hotels which does not require human intervention. From entry to exit, everything is managed by the technology itself. And what you see on the floor, on the right side of the chairs that are displayed, is a humanoid which has replaced a room boy. You give order to this gadget. If you want food, if you want water, if you want to adjust the air temperature, you could give voice commands. And this technology, this device does it all for you. So if I may repeat, this is a hotel with zero human intervention. From entry till exit, everything is managed by the technology itself, which means a hotel or a restaurant which was capable of employing probably around 100 plus people have become unemployed, because they don't, their presence is not needed in these hotels. So that's one aspect that we'll be discussing. What about the influence of technology in our life, both personal as also professional life? The second classification of my presentation, second part of my presentation, is more about the coronavirus pandemic, where I'll be discussing, as I said, these two are referred to as double disruption. Currently in 2020, all of us are in the midst of a double disruption. One is automation anxiety, the impact of automation in our life, both personal and professional. And the second is the impact of pandemic, COVID-19, in our life, both personal and professional. So that's the broader premise, that's the broader framework of our discussion today. Now let me begin with a very fundamental question. What do you find common in these companies. What was common in these companies? Microsoft, HP, IBM, Disney, Burger King, CNN, FedEx, General Motors, and Apple. There is a common link, there is a common connect with all of these companies. It's not that those are US-based companies, of course they are. It's not that they're all IT. There are a lot of companies which are not IT-based, information technology-based. Now, the common connect here is that these are companies which were all started during one or the other crisis, which means crisis actually gives you an opportunity to begin something new. You know, if you go back and understand the history of these companies, you would find that some of these companies were started during the global financial crisis. I mean, the early depression of 1930s. Some of these companies were started during some other natural calamities, or probably a war or a warlike situation. So the point here is, this is not a time when we think about the Cobb's experiential learning. This is not a time to sit back and kind of crib about things are not working. This is a time, if you actually put in some conscious and concrete efforts, you could do wonders. So that's the broader hope which I wish to give. So let me again ask a few questions. There is a group of people called Luddite, Luddite, and this is, as I said, is a brilliant book. If you are interested, please do read Through the Fray, A Tale of the Luddite Riots. Luddites are people who dislike technology. If a new technology comes and people go and damage those, you know, it had happened even in our state, in our place. We went against JCB. We went against computers. We went against mobile phones. We went against face recognition machines initially. And some of them were even, they had gone to the extent of damaging those electronic gadgets when they were first launched in the market. So those group of people who would damage electronic equipments or who would damage any new innovation that comes into the market are known as Luddites. And this is actually derived from a Luddite riot way back in 1811. You know, a few weavers and craftsmen, they went and destroyed the machineries which they thought would replace their job. And this riot went on for almost 2 or 3 years. And to quash this riot, they had to use force. The people in power those days had to use force much more than what they had to defend Napoleon in 1808. So the force they had to use to suppress Luddites were much more than the earlier war they had to fight with the Napoleon. So my point here is, whenever a technology comes, there would be Luddites. There would be people who are skeptical about a new technology. And that primarily is because they are anxious whether the technology would take away their jobs. A similar strike happened in New York on April 24, 1907. So in New York, till April 24, 1907, the public lamps, just as you see here, were gas light. These gas lights had to be lit every evening by a group of people called lamp lighters. So the lamp lighters would carry a big pole with fire at the end, and they had to go and lit this lamp every evening. But what happens in 1907 is the administration there decided to electrify all the public lamps, and in a split second, the entire street could be lit. You just had to switch on the light. This again led to a lot of protest by the lamp lighters. Lamp lighters went and, in fact, damaged all the electric bulbs that were replaced. Something similar happened with Elizabeth I. She had denied patent to a machine which was invented, a knitting machine which was invented. She thought it would take away the jobs of a lot of people. It would take away the jobs of a lot of maidens. Now I've quoted 3 examples. One is the Luddite, which happens in sometime between 1811 and 1816. The administration then had to really put in effort to crash the riots which erupted. Same thing happened with the lamp lighters. They were even protests. There are enough and more examples. I'm not going much in detail, but I recently wrote an article on this, and that's why I can go on and on about the historical perspective on people going against technology. I'm just giving you a background to set a context for our discussion. People who might have joined this workshop might be thinking what this person is talking all about, but I'm just setting a context. I would need another 10 minutes to give you an idea, a perspective on why I'm referring, why I'm mentioning all these examples. Now, this was a full-time job before industrialization. A person sitting on a higher pedestal in a chair is reading the daily newspaper to all the workers there in a factory. And this is also considered as the first form of probably the infotainment, information with entertainment. So he would not just read the newspaper, he would kind of add his own flares and make it very interesting and engaging for the people who are listening. Fast forward in 2020, you find this job of a lector. This is how they used to do it. This is just another image. Fast forward, there is no more lector. It is replaced with technology. It is replaced with a lot of gadgets that we all use and is exposed to. Yeah. So the whole context which I've set is to make you understand the point which came to light on December 2017. McKinsey had come up with a report called Jobs Lost, Jobs Gained report. And it was an eye-opener. It was shocking and revealing. Because this report said that by 2030, 75 to 375 million jobs that people are currently doing will get automated, will get replaced with technology. 375 million, in other words, 375 million people are going to become jobless by 2030. As simple as that. We're already in 2020. It's not far ahead. It's just about 9 years ahead. 375 million people are likely to. What has resulted in such an apprehension? It's primarily because of automation. It is primarily because of technology, developments in technology. What are those developments, major developments? I'll go with examples, quite a few. Now, this is another way of presenting it. In 2010, if you had to take an aerial view, you had to hire a helicopter, a pilot, a cameraman, and if you don't own a camera, you also had to hire all of these. But in 2020, both the cameraman and the pilot lost their job because it's replaced with a drone. It's become so common that even in our weddings and public functions, you get to see these drones being used. And these are changes which has happened probably in a period of 2 or 3 years. 3 years before, you couldn't even think about a wedding shoot with the use of all the electronic gadgets that you get to see these days. So the pace at which technology is advancing is unprecedented. I always say this in my workshops, what has changed in the past 1 year is much more than what had changed in the past 10 years. The amount of change, the pace at which it is changing is unimaginable, unpredictable, unprecedented. Are we prepared for this? That's a bit fundamental question. Are we making our students prepared for this? That's a fundamental question we will have to ask ourselves. And this workshop, this small interaction is primarily aiming at raising such questions. Now, these are not my apprehensions. There are people who are working in this field. Jerry Kaplan, a professor of standards, says automation is color blind. When you say color blind, he was actually referring to there are different color of jobs, blue collar jobs, white collar jobs. He said automation is color blind. I hope you get the point. There is hardly a job which you can say is safe in this, the pace at which automation is happening. Teachers are losing jobs. Why? Because a school in Bangalore, even a school in Bangalore, I'm saying, not very far, probably around 350 plus kilometers away from the city that Vedavyasa Institute is located. There is an Indus International School which has replaced teachers with a humanoid. They bought 3 robots and have replaced teachers. Accountants are losing job because you have a predictive data analysis. Lawyers are losing jobs. Why? You enter your problem, your crisis. The systems, the cloud server gives you a standard solution. Doctors are losing jobs. Physicians are losing jobs. Same. The entire ecosystem of technology has so advanced that it does not require human intervention. So no job, therefore, is safe, including the profession of teaching. But then I've referred to jobs lost, jobs gained, a report. Please do go back and read that. It says the least affected job is that of teachers. Because in the profession of teaching, you actually need human intervention, no matter. And why is it needed? I'll come to it. Towards the end, I'll kind of have a little bit of a discussion on that too. Now, how much time does it took? I was talking about the pace at which technology is advancing. Telephone took almost 80 years to reach 100 million users. But Instagram took less than 5 years to reach 100 million users. This is a kind of an abstract of how and at what pace technology is advancing. Mobile phones took less than 20 years, probably around 16 or 17 years, it could reach 100 million. But when it comes to Candy Crush, it is just 1 or 2 years that it had reached 100 million. So the point here is technological advancement is at a very, very rapid pace, to which the fundamental question that all of us will have to ask ourselves is, am I relevant? Or how will I be relevant when technology can do the work much better than what I can do? And this is a common question which I ask to myself whenever I step out of a class. There's a fundamental question. How do I become relevant as a teacher? How do I become relatable for a student who's born into technology? Because these are generations who doesn't I know my cousin's 3-year-old daughter, before even learning the letters or the alphabets, she knows what to type to get the video in YouTube. She likes poopy videos and she knows what to type there, and she watches the video on her own. We haven't taught her the words or letters, but she has learned on her own. So the point here is, most of us here are technology immigrants. We've migrated to technology, but the generations that we are dealing, they are born into technology. Yeah. Now, all of these, what we've been referring to, is summarized into one terminology called Fourth Industrial Revolution, or the Industry 4.0. Fourth phase of industrialization is what we are experiencing today. The first one was with the advent of steam engine in 1784. Second phase was in 1870 with the introduction of electricity. The third phase is when the computers were introduced on a larger scale in 1969. And currently, we are in a cyber physical systems world, a world which is also referred to as, or which is also called Industry 4.0 or Fourth Industrial Revolution. We are in the fourth phase of industrialization. But this phase is unprecedented because the changes is much faster than the earlier phases. Just quickly giving a few examples. There are personal assistants, Siri, Google Home, Alexa. They've become our personal assistants. Ross has become AI lawyer. IBM Watson have become digital doctors, and their accuracy is 4 times than human diagnosis. These are what the research says. We also have autonomous drivers, autonomous cars, self-driving cars. Waymo, Google had come up with self-driving cars. Tesla is working on it. Numerai is an AI investor. In stock market investment decisions, you don't need people's expertise. There are bigger and better technological expertise which are available, which would make investment decisions for you. So take any sector. That's why the professor, Jerry Kaplan, had said that technology today, or automation today, is color blind, C-O-L-L-A-R, not just color blind. It's color blind. It is cutting across all the sectors, cross section of the jobs that we are doing. It is getting penetrated into, deeper, getting penetrated deeper and deeper. Sebastian Tharum is another professor from Stanford. He said, we're just seeing the tip of an iceberg. None of the office job is safe. He's a professor who works on self-driving cars, and he's written a brilliant book. Both professors have written good books on these topics. Another book which I would suggest, it's a must-read. This is what I was saying. I might be bringing in examples, and if you find it interesting, please do make a note. The Rise of Robots, a masterpiece. It's a must-read for those who are having interest in this topic. Written by Martin Ford. He said, and this is the gloomiest of all the comments as compared to what other people have said. He said, he has written a book, Rise of Robots. He warns of a threat of jobless future. There won't be a job, unlike the earlier generation. Your parents, your grandparents, I'm sure they would have joined an organization and retired in the same organization. Things have changed. This generation By now, there was a study by Deloitte which says, on an average, by the time a person reaches 35, they would have worked in at least 6 companies. They would have changed their jobs quite often on. Things have gone even further. There wouldn't be a permanent job at all. I hope you have heard about something called gig economy, G-I-G, gig economy. Gig economy is on a rise post-COVID. And what is gig economy? There are different portals wherein you can register. If I'm good with some topic, I can go and teach at Vedavyasa. I can go and teach at St. Joseph's. I can go and teach at Malabar Christian College or any other institute. And from all institutions, I get paid, which means I'm not working and is loyal to only one organization. I'll have to do my tasks and earn money. I'm not having a job, but I'm called only for a task. If you're good with writing a content, you become a content writer for at least 10 companies. You can and earn money from all those 10 companies. But the problem is you don't have a pension. You don't have a provident fund. Everything you'll have to find on your own. And that is the economy that we are heading towards, gig economy. Go back, please do read about gig economy. Because these are things we have to sensitize our students. 2030 is not that far. The predictions are even by 2025 we'll start getting, which means the students who've joined first year, who are in the first years, by the time they graduate, they are into this market of gig economy. In fact, there is a interesting video. Did you know? Did you know is the title of this video. It says what an MCA student learns in the first year of graduation becomes completely outdated by the time they graduate, which means none of the degrees are also safe. What you learn becomes obsolete and outdated and, let's say, redundant, useless, if I maybe use the word, pardon me for using that word, but it becomes absolute rubbish. It becomes absolutely useless, redundant. So that is something which we have to sensitize the students. So Industry 4.0, there are several things that you can discuss. I hope you're aware that an entire building, I have an article which I had written, I'm just referring, Dubai's Future Academy's 120 feet building was printed. A building was printed in 17 days. I hope you're aware that a Sophia, a humanoid, got permanent citizenship in Saudi Arabia. You have cloud computing. You have augmented reality, big data analytics, all of which makes 1,000 or even 10,000 times better and more precise decisions. They can work better than what you and I can do. So that's the world that we're heading towards. That's the world that our generation and our children are heading towards. So Karl Marx had predicted it long back. I have great respect for this person, and so many things what he'd said is becoming a reality now. The production of too many useful things would result in too many useless people. But are we actually useless? How do we stand relevant? Shouldn't we be asking these questions to ourselves? Shouldn't we make our students capable of responding to these concerns and apprehensions? That's the point of this discussion. Now, I have one of my good friends who's written an article in Malayalam Manorama long back, Jane Thomas, and he kind of summarizes almost all the developments post the fourth phase of industrialization. And this is just the gist of it. So the point here is the fourth phase of industrial revolution, the imagination is the limit. There are so many things that are coming on the way, which is likely to make all those sci-fi movies that we've watched, Terminator, robotics. I mean, those kind of movies that we watched in the early 1990s, those are becoming a reality now. So this is what the concerns and the growth of technology is what is summarized in an article by Ray Kurzweil. This is another classic piece which I again would subscribe. I want you to read The Future of You, The Dawn of Singularity. From 2019 to 2099, what are the changes that, going by the current pace of technological advancements, what changes do we anticipate in, let's say, technology in the fourth phase of industrial revolution? He's beautifully summarized it. I hope you're aware that in Sweden, I hope I'm not wrong, in Sweden they've made microchipping mandatory in a small city. What is chipping? This chip which gets installed in the newborn baby would replace all the electronic cards that we, or probably all the documents that we carry. This chip embedded in the body would replace your Aadhaar card, would replace your PAN card, your ration card, your credit card, your debit card, or any other document, which means, and that's the future that we are heading towards, which means a newborn baby, probably in a span of another 5 to 10 years, would be half human and half technology. Scary, isn't it? In fact, there are designer babies which you can develop, which means if you have the money and resources, you can decide what qualities your newborn baby should have. The color of the skin, the tone of the skin, or the level of intelligence, what caliber, what skill set that baby needs to be born with can be decided before birth. And you can custom design babies, which is called designer babies. Please do go back and read about it. It's interesting, scary as well. So we could go on and on about a lot of things which are really scary. But this is something which I recently came across. It was in September 2020, about 2 months back, that I found an article in The Guardian, and this article was written by a robot. So imagine the amount of job replacement which is happening. And in China, they have replaced the news anchor. A robot is reading out the news. Here in The Guardian, you find a robot writing an article. Another, I think, statistics, you might find it interesting. A painting had fetched $432,500. Painting done by an AI, the first painting. The decisions made by AI is more accurate than 15 of the China's top doctors, and these AI integrated technology has diagnosed brain tumor much faster, more precise, more accurate than the top 15 doctors of China. Quite scary. So this is a context in which you have to sit back and think, how do I become relevant in the classroom? How do I become relevant in the office space if you're working? I mean, I'm assuming there are a few corporates. And moreover, how do I become relevant in the world itself? How do I defend the technology and its advancements? And that anxiety is what is otherwise referred to as automation anxiety. Now, what is automation anxiety? Automation anxiety is a fear of people getting replaced with technology, people getting automated even. I said the babies can be half technology, half human. So that anxiety, that fear is actually what led to the Luddites long back. I was referring to 1811. They had started destroying the technological inventions and innovations. The lamp lighters of New York, what they've done is also because of this automation anxiety. Now, what I've been talking probably about, almost about an hour, is a lot of negatives, or probably only negatives, about the automation which is happening at a pace unprecedented. And this chaos and confusion is being juxtaposed with, or is being compared with, a terminology which was developed by the American Army. And they use it in an entirely different context. They use it in the war context, but it has become a common management terminology. The fourth phase of industrialization, or the Industry 4.0, is compared with VUCA, which is otherwise called volatility. Things are changing. Things have become quite fragile and volatile. How many of us continue using the same mobile phone that we bought initially? At least 5 times we would have already by now changed the phones. The phones become outdated. The jobs become outdated. So things have become volatile. Uncertainty, hasn't all this brought in a lot of uncertainty? At least from now, I'm sure those are new to this concepts. Are you not sensing the uncertainty? Aren't you feeling the complexity of technology? See, initially when we only had the landline, we could talk over phone, only talk over phone. But today, I'm sorry, those are the election announcements. I'm so sorry for that. Yeah. So the life has become so very complex that today, if you don't have a good network, that's a problem. If one network is working, you would prefer switching to another network. If the Wi-Fi is not working, that's a problem. So with every new electronic gadget, with every new technological advancement, life on the one side is becoming easier and networked, but on the other hand, the life is becoming more and more complex. And that complexity is what is referred to as the third letter C. The last is ambiguous. So we are currently living in a world which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So Industry 4.0, or this automation, the automation anxieties, are all beautifully presented using this concept called VUCA. So that's one part of the presentation. Now, the second part, what I wish to is discuss the most negative word of 2020, which is to be tested positive. I'm referring to the coronavirus, or the pandemic related chaos and confusion that is brought in. So what I'll do is I'll take another 10 minutes to discuss the important aspects of this coronavirus and how it is related with the earlier topic, the automation anxiety that we have discussed, and then take a break. I'll take a few questions. If you have any, please do shoot your questions, and based on which I'll try to kind of navigate through the rest of the discussion that's left for the day. So there is hardly a sector that coronavirus has not affected. Hospitality, yes, it is. Restaurants, badly affected. Tourism, badly affected. Travel and tourism. Real estate, yes. Education, yes. The World Economic Forum, their study says that around 40 to 45% of the people don't have any access to education globally. It's really sad. E-commerce probably is the only sector which has had a, I was talking to some of my students who are there in the advertisements field. There's this company called Moshi Moshi, which is run by two of my brilliant students. And they say, sir, this is a best time. This is like a Christmas time for us. COVID-19 is like a Christmas. Why? It's the first time ever that even those vendors in the let's say in the street are compelled to go digital. A lot of digitalization is happening. I came across an interesting cartoon. The cartoon says, what led to the digital transformation in your organization? And they give three options: Chief Executive Officer, Chief Technical Officer, and then there is COVID-19. I hope you have the answer. How many of us have imagined taking online classes before COVID-19? How many of us have even thought of attending a virtual workshop like this online? This is my probably 22nd or 23rd workshop that I'm doing post March 2020. So this possibility was not there for me. So the point here is COVID-19 has set a new normal. It has brought in a lot of experiments, and it has cut across all the segment, and no sector is left alone. Every sector is really bad hit. So let's try to understand the real consequences of this COVID-19, and then think about the importance of hybrid learning, because I'm just setting this 1 hour, 15 minutes I'll be using to set a context to understand why we need to shift towards hybrid learning, because that's the topic allotted to me. But I thought this discussion is also important. Now, I use this article called Future Shock: 25 Job and Career Trends Post COVID-19. This article, probably a little old. It came in May, but I didn't find any better article than this, which articulates the entire consequence of COVID-19 across the sector. I'll quickly take you through some of the important points, and then let's try to give a break so that I also get a break. You also get time to, reduce your screen time. Now, the first consequence is loss of jobs. A lot of people in Bangalore, I know, they were working in the academic institutions. They worked for about 3 or 4 months, and then one fine morning they get a call from the boss asking to leave, telling that, the concept of pink slips. It's not just in academics. Corporate is extremely common. You get a WhatsApp call or a Zoom call. They are called WhatsApp firing and Zoom firing. You get a pink slip as a WhatsApp message that you are no more needed. Further was other students who got placed in the campus, or from the campus, I'm so sorry. Campus placements. Campus placements, what has happened in most of the cases is either they are getting delayed or they've completely withheld the list of students who got selection. Further worse are the ones who left the job, a job which they were doing for years, anticipating or expecting a job call from another organization. In their case, they are neither here nor there, because the organization they left, they say, we don't need you because you've already left. And the organization which had offered them the job, they say, our business is down, we don't need you. And this is a reality. I'm telling the ground reality. A lot of my students are struggling. Their ego was not permitting to again depend on their parents. Some of them, they literally called and cried. They said, my parents, they've already struggled a lot for my education, and I didn't want to depend on my parents, but I'm forced to, because I've got a lot of financial commitments. I'm not able to pay the EMIs for the new house that I've constructed or the electronic gadgets that I've bought. It's a real bad situation, job loss. And the anticipated loss of jobs is much more than what you can imagine. 1 in every 5 is jobless by April 2020. This is a US scenario. Out of every 5, one had become jobless. Bloomberg is predicting about 13% drop in the global merchandise, and that is that plunge is 30% more worse than the 1930s depression. 1930s depression is considered the worst ever in human history, and this is going to be much worse than that. Yeah, so that's number 1. Second is salary cuts, which I'm sure a lot of organizations, sometimes you also are experiencing, some of you are experiencing, if not all. Fortunately, our institution didn't do, but majority of the academic institutions, I am quoting academic because I represent one, majority of the institutions in Bangalore, they have cut at least 30 to 40% of the salary. Some of them are not paying at all. Some of them have terminated their staff. So salary is another big problem. Normally in HR, we say last hired would be first fired. Yeah, the one who would last hired would be first fired. And there are concepts of right sizing, bright sizing. What are these? It's a nice way to say that we don't need you anymore. It's a very diplomatic way of saying that the company does, and that's going to become common. And that's going to become not just for the newly joined employees, because they normally used to become the target, but also for the mid-level employees. This is likely to increase. Depression, it is there extremely common among a lot of people who are isolated within the 4 walls of a small paying guest accommodation or in a rented house. A lot of my students, they've been calling. They're saying, sir, we just can't take it, because the first time ever in life, for them, it's Saturdays, it's the weekend partying, they go to the pubs and the clubs, they socialize, but the first time in their life, they have not had any social interaction, not even with their parents. Worse is the case of NRI students who are not able to go back to their native, completely confined within in fact, one of my friend, a colleague of mine, he lost his senses, despite being a psychology professor, and he went into depression. We had to send him back for almost double or triple the cost of travel. We had to bear it and then send him back to his native, because the only human interaction he used to have is the food delivery guy who comes every day twice to his paying accommodation, which is in the 12th floor of a building. There is absolute. So depression has become common. Mental health I'm talking about. When it comes to entrepreneurship, I'm so sorry, two-third has shut forever in US. Entrepreneurs, 57% US business has dropped. I'm quoting US example because those are the statistics available. What about these jobs? These are called front-line jobs. No matter what crisis, they have to be there on duty. These are going to become less attractive because there'll be close human interaction, and the social distancing norm is likely to continue for long. So doctors, nurses, ambulance drivers, firefighters, police officers, medical technicians, physical therapists, athletes, delivery boys, retail salesperson, cashier, restaurant servers, flight attendants, barbers, fast food chains, all have become less attractive. People are not taking up that job, and it is likely to continue. What about traveling abroad, not just traveling, migration has decreased. In fact, not just permanent migration, temporary migration for the higher studies or for a job, that's also declining. There is no travel. In fact, the IIM Kashipur director's son, director is one of my good friend and also mentor. And he said, I took admission for my kid, for my son, and we have paid a huge amount, because that college, that university comes in the top 10 colleges in the globe, and we had to withdraw the admission because that university is situated in China. They took admission in a college in Bangalore. That's going to increase. Not just going abroad for studies, even travel and permanent migration is going to reduce. So every sector is increasingly getting affected. Another is work from home. Deloitte did a study which says 40% of the people are likely to continue working from home. There are positives to it, but I would say negatives outnumber. One of my colleagues, I hope I work in a university, and believe it or not, on an average, I am spending about 14 hours a day. 14 hours a day is the screen time, because my preparation is online, delivery is online, my research is online, my admission duty is online, examination is online, evaluation is online, the other assessments is online. On top of it, the meetings, the endless meetings, which is also online. The screen time has just increased. But despite that, the work from home is still being preferred the most globally. Roughly 40% of the people are likely to continue working from home. That's the study. Another example, one of my colleagues said, she works as my colleague. She's a faculty. I am at home. My husband, who's there at the IT sector, is also at home. But the concern from my kid, the kid is only 5 years, is that both of you are here at home, but both of you don't find time for me. Work from home is not that easy. And we don't know till when it will continue. It is likely to continue as long as the world goes back to a new normal. We don't know when the world will go back to the new normal. I always say the world is no more pre-vaccine, world is no more pre-COVID and post-COVID. It is pre-vaccine and post-vaccine, because unless and until the vaccine comes and everyone shows the same kind of resistance to this disease, I think the world is not going to go back to the new normal. It will take sometimes years. I was talking to the people in the industry, in the medical field, and they were saying at least till 2023, the world would be uncertain, because there might be certain side effects or consequences of the medicines that we are taking, which we'll get to know only in the course of time. So the social distancing, wearing masks, sanitizer, that will be the new trend, at least for a couple of months more. And the further worse, the most badly affected is this segment, and which we mostly ignore. It's about 450 million crores of people are there in the informal sector. We have seen some of those when the lockdown was declared. The migrant laborers, the people who sell food or any other things on the streets, the hawkers, the peddlers, the beggars, they're all severely hit. So the world and the crisis that we're all addressing today is unprecedented and unimaginable. So we need solutions for all of these, and we need concrete solutions both for automation and also for the pandemic that we're addressing. So I've added one more. The second is pandemic anxiety. The first one was automation anxiety. So how do we stand relevant? Where do we stand relevant? These are questions which I thought I'll take up after a small break. I invite a few questions right now, and then accordingly I can design the rest of my discussion. I pause here for some time. Are there any questions? Anything that you feel free to ask, you may. Yes, I can see about 56 people online. Yes, Anjana, please go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to ask you a question like, people are migrating from read and understand, and they are migrating from read and understanding to type and understanding. That is, type and understand from a video or from digital data. So how is this going to affect the upcoming generation? Like, is it really effective to completely reliant on a digital data that was created by a robot in an artificial intelligence algorithm rather than reading and understanding things?
Okay, that's a good question, to which I do have an answer, which probably in the later course of discussion, it will get revealed. See, we are relevant. Human beings are relevant. And how are we different and unique is something which I would be discussing probably in the course of that discussion. I would be in a position to answer that. But even if I fail, please do remind me at the last part of the question answer. I'll try to address this question again. It's a very important question which we need to really think about.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other question that we need to? Anything you could feel free to ask. Whatever comes to your mind as an apprehension, as a concern, as a or even if you are reluctant to you could even type your responses. If you're reluctant to ask, if you're reluctant to speak, please do type and ask your question. But I would love to listen to some of your questions, some of your comments, your observations, and then take things ahead from here. I'm sorry I'm having this, but I need this.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, I am Kavita here. I have attended sir's session in the last time also, but this session was entirely different, sir. It was not the same actually. Most of the points were entirely different. It was really nice, sir. One thing, my concept is, sir, last time when you said we can try for half of the students, they can come to the campus that you are trying there at Bangalore. So now KTU has already accepted like students can be given contact classes and they'll be coming to campus I think from December 28th onwards. So the hybrid learning method will be more useful to us, sir. But some, yes, sir. But sir, that students, some of them, they do still hesitate to come to the campus. So what should be done if they are relucting, like they have a fear or something like that?
Okay, we can't do much because the apprehension or the concern of the parents are quite normal. Because I'll quote a statement by one of the parent which I had to address or I had to deal with. What he was saying is, sir, it is okay if we lose 1 year, but what for us is important is a daughter which was born after waiting for almost 9 years. I hope you have understood the importance of life and the learning or the livelihood that all of us are working for. So life is more important than anything else. So the apprehension of the parents is quite understandable, and we need to respect that. And as long as they are not willing to, we can't force and compel people. Make them feel comfortable and create a platform wherein they don't experience a difference in what they get in the campus as much vis-a-vis what we are offering in the hybrid mode or through the online platform. So my point is, to the extent possible, establish a personal connect with people and try to extend the conversations, what happens normally otherwise in the campus. I mean, that's the only possible options. What else can we do? I mean, I don't find a solution to. We can't compel, that's not possible. We can't make it mandatory, it should be an option. On humanitarian grounds, it should be. And if the technology permits us, what more we could do is think about what differently we can teach, what different pedagogies we could teach, what different ways in which we can stay connected. I spoke to Dr. Shyama ma'am of the Providence Women's College recently about, and she was saying, as Rishi, I've stopped giving online videos. Why? Because the screen time is increasing. So what I've done is I just record my voice in the phone and I send it to my students. It's quite sensible. I mean, it's almost like a podcast. You can listen, even if you're doing some other work, you can just plug in and listen to the ma'am's lecture. Yeah. Even when you're traveling, you can, when you're doing some other work, you could do listen to the lecture. So look at possible ways of experimenting with what we can do to the students and then develop strategies. Compulsion is not a substitute. I mean, is not doable at all. You can't make, campus or offline teaching compulsory. That's my take. I could be right or wrong, but I think that's how we have to deal with it.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Sure, sir.
Any questions, or else it's good time to proceed? By the way, how many are there? You could just message outside of Vedavyasa Institute. I mean, not exclusively from Vedavyasa Institute.
About 20 of them from outside, sir.
Okay, wonderful.
Yes.
Great to see you all. Okay, let's continue then. I'll just project the screen. One of you, please let us know if things are visible. Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So I have used a question to pose. How do we stand relevant? We've been talking about two things. One is Industry 4.0, the automation anxiety, the challenges that it is bringing in. The second is about the pandemic. Yeah. Now, I mentioned something about VUCA in the first part of our discussion, which represents volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Now, there is an antidote to it. Let me just take the paper which I had written. There is an antidote which is developed by, 1 minute. Anyways, that doesn't matter much, but yes, Bob Johnson. Please do go back. Bob Johnson is the name of the author. Bob Johnson had written an article which gives a counter to VUCA, which is exact opposite of VUCA. Of course, we do accept that the world is in a VUCA, but how do we deal with it? How do we stand relevant? And that's the antidote to VUCA. It is developing a vision, anticipate issues, try to understand what things are changing, develop and shape conditions, just like Vedavyasa is now attempting to develop newer platforms, trying to learn about flipped classrooms, trying to learn about blended learning, a lot of things. So develop a vision and anticipate what are going to change. Second is about understanding. You need to understand what will be the consequences. The whole point of discussing almost 1 hour, 20 minutes only about pandemic is to understand the consequences of the world that we're currently in. I said about the dual paradoxes that we are in, dual crisis that we are in. One is about the current pandemic, and the other one is the automation. So we need to understand all possible consequences and think about action. The third is about developing a clarity. Now, that's why I encourage asking questions. When that faculty asked, I was really happy that she raised some very pertinent questions. So those questions are asked because you're seeking clarity. You wanted clarity, or you're trying to find coherence to the world that you're currently living, so that you can set your expectations. Yeah. So think about clarity and then develop an agile strategy. What is agility? Doing things at a at a very rapid pace. Prepare, interpret, and address the opportunities. Address things heads on. So you need to, both at the individual level as also your organizational level, think about developing a vision, understand all possible consequences, develop clarity, and also be agile in the process of creating a counter narrative to the VUCA. Yeah. So I had done this experiment last workshop. Another document which I want you to go back and read is the World Economic Forum. They had listed the Future of Jobs report in 2018, and they list out 10 emerging jobs and 10 declining jobs. I mean, in demand and decreasing demand. So these are areas which we need to communicate to our students. These are the areas which we need to do our research on. These are areas which we need to develop our curriculum. Since most of you are from the engineering background, think about developing courses on analytics, AI, machine learning, operations, big data, information technology related, all the courses. Similarly, sorry for that, I'll take a pause. Okay, so similarly, they have listed 10 skill sets to be developed. And those skill sets are analytical thinking, active learning, complex problem solving, and a host of other things. So this is another report, World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report. Go back and read, both about jobs, prospects, and also the skill sets that we need to impart, also develop in ourselves to make ourselves relevant. Yeah, that makes sense. That's the way of approaching. I don't know whether I'm answering some of the questions that were raised through these discussions. But as I said, artificial intelligence is really a threat. As someone who has actually benefited through automation is the one who is saying this. Jack Ma is the one who started that hotel. Yeah, Flyzoo Hotel was started by Jack Ma, and the same person says AI or artificial intelligence will cause more people pain than happiness, because life expectancy would increase because of advancements in science and technology, but there will be lesser jobs for an aging workforce. We would live probably 3 or 4 years. I hope you're aware that every 3 years, 1 year of average, 1 year globally, I'm saying, every 3 or 4 years, I'm not very sure. UNESCO's report says every 3rd or 4th year, 1 year gets added to the average age of life expectancy. So our life expectancy would increase, but the possibilities of work would decrease. Similarly, there is another report from the same WEF. Please do subscribe. That would be the better choice. Subscribe to V Forum. V Forum is World Economic Forum. They'll keep sending you newsletters, all of which are beautifully researched, brilliantly researched, in-depth research. So they've listed some of the major challenges. If you read that, probably it helps us equip ourselves to understand where we need to improve. Yeah, unemployment is quite natural. Inequality is going to happen. So how do we invest our resources? Where to invest our resources? One of the brilliant points which was raised in this report, which I thought I'll just mention that and then move on to the next, is artificial intelligence is fine, but what about artificial stupidity? What if technology goes wrong? Yeah, nobody is going to take responsibility, and it happened to. The Google car met with an accident, and neither the company nor anybody else who was expected to responded to the accident. So things can go wrong. What can happen when technology goes wrong, when we are relying too much on technology? So those are some of the challenges which they have listed. So opportunities, the jobs, the skill sets, and also they list out the challenges. Go back, read, understand, and develop yourself. So having said so much about technology and COVID-19, what is needed is an improvement and a giant leap. In fact, a jump from what we've been doing to what we are expected to be doing. And this is a statement by Guy Kawasaki. Again, if you have time and interest, please do watch all of his videos. Amazing. So much of information filled. He puts across a lot of ideas which are worth for us to understand. He mentions there's the great jump. And as I said, this great jump could be in different ways. One of the faculty just raised a question. How do we ensure hybrid learning? How do we make hybrid learning? Hybrid learning is something which you might not have thought about earlier. So that's a jump that you've took. That is a kind of giant leap that you've taken. And such experiments and such innovations are happening in almost all the sectors. Okay, it's a kind of a weird example, but still, I thought I should kind of mention it here just to emphasize on the point that this is a time for us to innovate. This is a time for us to experiment. I hope you're aware that in Europe, if you've traveled to Europe or US, there are stripping clubs where people strip naked, and then that's a source of income for many of them in the pubs and in the bars. And what happened after pandemic, especially post lockdown, is most of these strippers lost their job. Yeah, they were maintaining a certain standard of living, and they were running out of money. They're running out of jobs. But what they did, what experiment or innovation they did was something really interesting. All of these strippers had a tie-up with a food delivery company. Yeah, they had a tie-up with a food delivery company, and they started something called Uber Eats, which means if a person orders a food online, it is these strippers who would go to the client and deliver it bare breast. They won't bear, I mean, this is how they did it. And topless food delivery, and that became the source of income for them. So my point here is every sector is doing experiments, and including education sector, it's time for us to think about some experiments, one of which is only what hybrid learning is. Now, similar models were already experimented in a company called Apple. I'm sure you all know. Apple, much before this pandemic, much before COVID-19, had done this experiment. For them, it is not just the classroom, or just not, in their case, not just an office room. They have different types of offices, which is likely to happen even in schools and colleges, which means academic institutions as well. And what is that? They have a team space, which is the actual office space. Yeah, in your case, your school or a college. They have a me space, which is at the home, what we are doing currently, work from home. Yeah, that's a me space. There is an open space. It could be anywhere, anytime. Yeah, if your students are willing to come to a cafe, sit, for a small chat for about 1 hour or 2 hours, it can be an open space. Apple has already done that. Anywhere, co-work, park, lobby, cafe, wherever they are comfortable. If they're not comfortable coming to campus, if they're not comfortable sitting at home, an open space. A virtual space, which is a holistic connector, which connects team, me, open and virtual. And these are the kind of experiments we'll have to do in academics as well. Yeah, we have to do such experiments in academics as well. Now, I think it's at this time I'll be logging in using another account. Please, the host, kindly permit me to join, because I'm doing a small experiment right now. So I think that's not possible. I cannot log in using another system. Okay, so let me just quickly do a small experiment. There is a model called iceberg model. It's a systems thinking model, which I began with. I think I started off with Cobb's experiential learning, and then I spoke about root cause analysis, and also now I'm talking about systems thinking. Now, it is a time that we have to start thinking about the systems that we are all a part of. When I say system, academic system, because in an iceberg model, just as in the earlier case, we spoke about root cause analysis, only the outcomes are visible. In an iceberg too, only the tip is visible. There are plenty of things which actually lays below the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, so something similar is what I'm trying to compare your academic institution with. See, every academic institution will have a certain set of belief systems. Yeah, and those are belief systems which has acquired over a period of time. Belief systems that, oh, this is only how it is going to work, or things are not going to change, or oh, that student is good, or this student's parents are not. So there are certain systems, beliefs, concepts that we have been following for so many years. Yeah, which is the most fundamental thing in any academic institution. Beliefs about things work, how things work, and about other people, other people's motives, other people's agendas. Some of our colleagues would have agendas because for them it is just a time pass. This is not a full-time job. Either their parents are filthy rich or their partner is filthy rich. Some of them really wanted to create an impact. Some academic institutions run for profit. Some of them have some really genuine. So see, there are certain belief systems that both individuals and organizations have. Yeah, so that's the most basic thing. Second is, there are certain structures, how things are organized in your institution. The framework, like if you have to talk to the principal, it has to be first routed to the HOD. HOD will have to go and talk, get a consent, and then he takes. So there is a certain structure or a format that, or a framework that you've been used to over a period, within which a people would operate. Yeah. So that beliefs is the fundamental thing. Second is the structure, and what is visible outside is the outcome. In your institution, how people perform, the culture, how the organization, what students experience, what faculties experience, what administrators experience, is only what is visible outside. But it is all dependent on how solid the structure is and how solid the belief systems are, or what your belief systems are, and how we have designed the structures. I hope you're getting the point. So I'm just kind of doing a small experiment here, and I want you to actively take part in this. Either in the form of chat, or because I actually wanted to join and then, but that's not possible using another account. That's not possible. But let me try how this will go. The first thing which I want you to think about is this. Yeah. What are those values? What are those belief systems that you want your students to have? The skills, the mindsets, the beliefs. I'll just give you one clue. One is that you want your students to be critical thinkers. Yeah, that's one belief system that you want to develop. Yeah, can you just think about your academic institution and let me know what other belief systems are important. You can type your responses. I can read it out here. What belief systems should run an academic institution? Quickly, if you could respond. Yeah, so I'm just thinking about the restructuring, how to restructure organization, how to redesign your organization in the in your current COVID crisis and also the pandemic. So I'll just list out. Probably you can do this experiment back at your office sometime when you are free in your leisure time. You could do it. So the first thing is about setting the belief systems. Certain belief systems which believes in developing critical thinkers or making a space where everyone is creative, respectful. Students are respectful, teachers are respectful to colleagues, to each other, to the boss. You want your students to be courageous leaders, self-aware. So first thing to do is to set a belief system based on certain values. Yeah. So have a discussion. When you go back, have a discussion and list out, based on the discussions that we have had about pandemic, about Industry 4.0, what value systems, what belief systems you want to create in your institution. It can be anything. Have a discussion. Second is, what structures are needed to create these changes? Think about what is working and what is not working. Because I have to report to the HOD and the HOD has to take it to the principal, it takes a lot of time. So it is not possible for me to, so it's time that we restructure the organization. Or because I don't insist the submission of assignments from the students to be done on a particular day, they don't do it. So how do I restructure it? How do I make it more and more efficient? Yeah. Because I've not experimented with a platform, things weren't work on an online platform. And I'll speak about that. What are the other different platforms which you can use to do different experiments? Things weren't working. So how can that be brought in? So what sort of structural changes are needed? So first is about the belief systems, which is the base, which should be the base. Second is about changing the structure. And if both those things are perfectly aligned, believe me, the outcomes that you get in the institution would be entirely different. So what I'm introducing here is about the systemic change in your organization, which would bring, think about your system, the ones that needs to be changed, and you need to be really honest, brutally honest. Because unless and until you are brutally honest, you may not be able to bring about any sort of a change. So that is what brings about outcomes. That is what brings about a change. So start thinking at your organizational level, what belief systems you should have. You, when I say you as faculties, you as students, you as administrators, what are the belief systems that you want to change? What structures you want to change, and what outcomes you are anticipating? Because what you otherwise normally see is only the outcomes. We don't go deeper and analyze the structures and belief systems, which has to be done. Yeah, I hope I'm making sense. I actually wanted to do a live experiment, but this online platform has its own limitations, so I leave it. And then what you can list out is there is something called Eisenhower matrix. Once this is a strategy of transition. List out what needs to be done urgently. That is a do list. Then list out what can take some time to plan. That's not very urgent. Third is identify those which can be delegated to other people. Sometimes delegated to the students. Fourth is identify those which can be completely eliminated. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is a systemic restructuring, and the iceberg model is what I had used to make you think about post-COVID academic institutions rebuilding or reshaping or restructuring. I hope it works. It didn't work now, but I want you to take ideas from here and then go back and experiment it within your office spaces whenever you get free time. Yeah. So that's about it. And yeah, let me quickly now come to, what's the time now? 11:48. How much time do I have? Can I wind up by 12:15? I can finish and then I'll take a lot of questions. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
All right. So somewhere you would find similarities. Those students who, I'm sorry to address you as students, those faculties who've joined in the previous session, because this is where it becomes more important. Now, I've listed people of different age groups. Those who are age 71 plus are either born between 28 to 45. They're known as builders. 46 to 64 are known as baby boomers. Generation X is what the 65 to 80 category is. 81 to 96 is Generation Y. Generation Z is 97 to 2012. Generation Alpha is early 2010 and mid 2020s. So why I'm bringing this is, most of us, the faculty, if you do a self-analysis, you would find that we all belong to different age groups. It's a very diverse and heterogeneous group. But the students that we are addressing are of a common age group, which means there is a lot of generation gap. There is a lot of, the way in which we perceive technology itself. I think I said earlier, we are immigrants to technology. Yeah. So people are born. So how do we use technology? We might require some additional effort and some time, but don't bother. Because that's the only way, if that is the only way we can connect with the students of this generation, we have to do it. Yeah. So that's one. So 81 to 96 are known as millennials. The next category is Zoomers and Generation Alpha. So there's a fundamental problem, systemic dialogue. I was talking about systemic restructuring. And this is again a fundamental problem with regard to education or academics. 21st century kids are being taught by 20th century adults using 19th century calendar and school curriculum. Not much of updation has happened. So it's time for us, this COVID-19 is a time for us to rethink about what can be done differently than, there is a saying, if you continue to teach the students of this generation in the way in which you were taught, you will be robbing the generations of future. I repeat, if you're continuing to teach the way in which you were taught in your school days or your college days, you will be robbing the generation. So if you're not doing justice to the work that you are a part of by disconnecting with the students. I had a faculty just slightly deviating from the topic, but a faculty, very senior faculty, who was comfortable with the chalk walk talk board, style of teaching. We call it chalk walk talk, without using any electronic gadgets. So it so happens that whenever I meet him in the department, he used to come and complain, Rishi, there is one girl who keeps disturbing. She never pays attention no matter what I do. So one day he decides to call this girl to the department, and his primary intention was to insult her so that she changes her attitude, her behavior. So because all the faculties, this scolding was happening in front of other faculties. But the response which this senior faculty got from the student was an eye-opener, not just for him, but also for all of us. She said, yes, sir, I do agree that when you teach, I don't pay attention. I do look outside. It is primarily because I look outside as there was nothing happening inside, which means what she was saying is, you are not able to connect with me. You are an absolute failure as a teacher. You are just doing what your generation has done. I'm more exposed to technology. I'm more exposed to a lot of things which you are not able to do justice. So literally, it was a blow on all of us. So the point is, we have to think about these sort of dilemmas that's there, systemic, structural, belief systems, whatever we spoke about. So there's this book called Grown Up Digital, which is by Don Tapscott. Again, I'm suggesting another read. Go back if you find time. It's very well articulated. It talks about how the net generation is changing your world. Because the net generation is what he is referring to as the next generation, which is also a net generation, NET, because they are connected through internet. So it helps us understand how their brain is wired and how they think. So here comes the importance of blended learning. Here comes the importance of hybrid learning. So if you look at the faculties, if you look at the students, some students are very traditionalist. They still prefer chalk and talk. Some are Generation X. Some are baby boomers. A few are millennials. Though biologically they are born almost in the same period, but their attitude towards education or the way in which they would love learning would be different. So as a faculty, to become effective in the classroom, you need to be a perfect blend of all of these. You need to be a traditionalist sometime. You need to be technology pro. You also need to be a millennial, think like a millennial, and also act like a baby boomer. Yeah, it's a blended learning, which is the future. It is the hybrid model of learning, which would make you relevant in the classroom, not just in the classroom, elsewhere as well. Yeah. So think about it. How do you become a model, a hybrid model yourself? Now, there is a problem with the system as well. If you look at it, the academics, the way in which it is designed, it is very well structured, it's systematic, and is standardized. There's a professor called Ken Robinson. He had come up with a video, How Schools Killed Creativity. And he compares school systems with that of a factory. Yeah? In a factory, you bring in raw material, it gets processed, and you get output. Standard output. And he says that's exactly what used to happen in schools and colleges. Everyone has to write the same exam. Everyone is assessed based on their same skill set. And everyone has to write a common examination. And you keep a common benchmark to assess, which is a sheer injustice to the real talent which is hidden in. The Mozart of Madras, A.R. Rahman, who won 2 Academy Awards, is a school dropout. If you compel him to do what every other student is doing, he would be a huge failure as per the academics. No, the Amir Khan, who actually exposed the Indian education system through one of his movies, The Three Idiots, is a school dropout. So if you try to assess Amir Khan or let's say A.R. Rahman to this structured, systematic, standardized, they all would be huge failures, which is what Ken Robinson says. Our system has copied a lot of things from industry. And it's time we have to rethink. And that's exactly what Prince EA, he had come up with a video called I Sued My Education System. That's a video which he had come up with. I Sued My Education System. Please do go back and watch both. Ken Robinson's How Schools Kill Creativity and I Sued My Education System by Prince. Think about examination. I spoke about it. For a fair selection, everybody has to take the same examination. Please climb that tree. This is what we do to all our students. It's the time. This is a God-given time for all of us. Are we doing justice? Of course, we have our academic limitations when it comes to the final year examination and university norms. You have to write certain, but at least within your academic institutions and what you do in the classroom, you can do. You are the actual hero. You are the actual, you can do experiments in the classes, and which we've been doing, and I'll come to it later. So I'll skip quite a few slides, which I don't think needs to be done right now. But this report which came in the Business Insider, this is a report of UNICEF, which came on November 6, 2019. It says over half of Indian students will not have skills for 21st century jobs. Half of Indian students will not have 21st century jobs. I need to show one more. There is a discussion about unemployability. The problem is not unemployment. The problem is unemployability. And I'm backed with a research report, Aspiring Minds National Employability Report of 2019. It says 50% of Indian graduates lack basic employability skills. And that's really bad in engineering. Sorry to say that, but that's a fact. Now, the point here is I've been talking a lot of negativity. I've been bringing in only negativity, but let me get henceforth for the rest of the time, how much ever I'm having, maybe around 15 to 20 minutes, I'll try to talk more positive. Now, the basic purpose of hybrid learning is to make the students more independent, is to make the students more capable. And for that, how do we use technology as the important question that all of us as faculties have to ask ourselves? I want you all to think about, leave this workshop or leave this small interaction with a sort of conscious optimism. No, I want to not just spread negativity, but also conscious optimism. Now, if you look at any report that IMF, World Bank, UNESCO, World Economic Forum, McKinsey, Deloitte, KPMG, PwC, you would find these 5 qualities as the most important quality to make you relevant for the 21st century. Creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, communication, emotional intelligence. Now, how do we develop this? You can develop this through your assignments, through what you do in the classrooms. When I teach entrepreneurship, there is a online platform called Lean Canvas. The students can work online no matter where they are and develop a business plan and submit it online. They can edit those submissions as well. That's a platform to collaborate. Are you giving such assignments? That's a question. In one of my subject, business communication, I give absolute liberty to the students to decide their assignment. They can choose their assignment. If somebody is good at writing, that is their assignment. If somebody is good at video making, that is their assignment. If somebody is good at poster making, that can be their assignment. If somebody wants to do an interview and present it, that can be their assignment. But the only challenge which I have given them, they should also develop the criteria on which they should be assessed. How should a video be assessed? On what basis? So all those students who are doing video will sit together and decide how their assignment should be assessed. All those who are writing and submitting, on what criteria? So there comes creativity, there comes collaboration, there comes critical thinking. Communication is another thing. No matter what, no matter how much you score, if your communication is bad, you're lost. So the basic skill set is social skills, which makes you employable. Ability to communicate and articulate things. And predominantly English. Your ability to communicate well in English. No matter whether you have an MTI, or is MTI, mother tongue influence, that's fine. But communication, effective communication. The last is about emotional intelligence, which is about empathizing with the other person. Your ability to connect with people. Because in pandemic, I spoke about mental health. That's the biggest problem which this generation is facing. I keep getting phone calls from the students. They say, sir, I just want to talk. The problem is, just to quote one instance, I think I mentioned that in the last session as well. I get a call from Mr. Goyal. I have taught him in 2014. And since then, we've never spoken. But I get a message through Instagram and he said, sir, I need to talk to you. And the story was really shocking. He comes from a filthy rich family. He has 3 sisters. Parents are alive. But he says, sir, it is like a pressure cooker to stay at home because of the love and affection and the overprotection my parents are showing towards me, because he's the only male child. All of them love and care him a lot. And this 8 months of sitting at home and experiencing the love and care and the overprotection has made him exhausted. And he said, either I'm in depression, or I have a suicidal tendency, or I will get into some substance abuse because it's too much. I just can't handle it. And he said, can I leave my house and stay at a paying accommodation despite having a big palatious bungalow in Bangalore? Mental health is a big problem. How do we emotionally connect with people? Emotional intelligence is another. Creativity, collaboration, critical thinking, communication, and emotional intelligence. These are the things that would make a person employable. So that's now, okay, I'll skip this part in quite a few. Another thing which I wanted to explain is, I hope in science you've learned that there is a left brain and the right brain function. The left is more logical, the right one is more art and creative. So in the assignments, it's both logical and the rational, emotional and the rational part of the brain that needs to be. So have assignments. I think I quoted this last time also. There are lots of fake submissions, answer submissions or assignment submissions that we get. So what I did is I once created a blog and asked the students to submit their assignments, all their assignments in the blog. And believe me, those were the best of the assignments that I received, because they knew that what they submit would be seen by others. So they don't want, and I also kept a condition: if you're copying from any source, I'll check, I'll do a plagiarism check, cut the marks. Believe me, those were the most genuine assignments that I got. Yeah. So try such experiments wherein the left and right brain creative, collaborative work do happen. So I spoke about Industry 4.0. Similarly, Education 4.0 is also happening. What is Education 4.0? Just a quick a snapshot of it. It can be anytime, anywhere, because learning can happen anytime. As I said, Shyama ma'am sends a voice message, voice record of her class, and a student can learn it anytime, anywhere. It is becoming more and more personal, flexible, more and more peer and mentor kind of a role. Student ownership. Students, see, in conventional education, the student comes to the first day, the faculty comes to the class with the syllabus. Second day, the lecture begins. The third day, the assignment is given by the faculty. Fourth day is the test paper. Fifth day is the end of the syllabus. Now, everything is done by the faculties. But in Education 4.0, the ownership should go to the student. How do we make students more accountable to what they do and what they learn? So go back and read about Education 4.0. There are lots that you need to understand. And then pedagogy, I spoke about it last session also. There are newer concepts like heutagogy, pedagogy, and cybergogy. Go back, read and understand. Heutagogy is more about how do we make students independent, self-directed. Pedagogy is co-learning, collaborative learning in teams. Cybergogy is about using online platforms. So it's about blended learning. It's about inverted classroom, flipped classroom, or let's say hybrid learning. Now, how do we do, and what are the options that you have? So many organizations, so many popular academic edutainment apps have come. Vedantu is quite popular in, let's say, in Bangalore. Byju's have become extremely common. MIT OCW, Open Courseware. OCW is Open Courseware. I think this stands useful for the engineering students or engineering faculties here. MIT Open Courseware is an open platform wherein you get standard resources. Byju's has standard resources. Vedantu has it. InstaEdu has it. Avagma has it. Tutor Vista has it. So TED Talks, there are quite a lot. But there is an exclusive platform called TED Ed, which can be used. Yeah. So these are all some of the platforms which gives a lot of resources which are recent and updated. So you could probably utilize in your blended learning or in your experiments in the classes. Now, what exactly is hybrid learning? You are using technology by understanding for what they are using technology purposefully. Yeah. Connecting to the larger or a bigger picture. It's not just about, hybrid learning is not about shooting your video and sending it to through WhatsApp. That is not hybrid learning. You have to connect it to the larger picture, making the students reflect and apply those in their life. Yeah. So it's a broader concept. Probably this slide I can send to you in detail. So hybrid learning is about having face-to-face conversation only when it is possible, but having personalized conversation one-on-one, and blended learning, adaptive, whatever technology and non-technology platforms can be included, adapted as a learning tool, but at the same time maintain social distancing. So this is developed more in the context of current COVID. Remote learning tools and flexible schedules is what makes a hybrid learning model. Yeah, it's about personalization. It's about bringing in technology. It's about remote learning and also face-to-face only when it is possible. So that's a blend of what hybrid learning is. And okay, let me introduce, this might be of more use for those who are really looking for certain tools which you can apply in hybrid learning. I've listed this in the previous class as well, but I thought I should repeat. One is Google Classroom, which I'm sure it's freely accessible. Only thing what you need is an account, Google account, which I'm sure majority of you would have. Brilliant platform. Then LMS requires a lot of investment, which the institution has to bear. LMS is Learning Management System, which I'm hoping some of you would be aware of. There are MOOC, Massive Open Online Courses, which is a platform connecting universities across the globe, giving free courses and also paid courses. So it's another, how can you utilize? So I had a chat with a professor at IIM Bangalore, and we are trying to blend entrepreneurship course with some of the courses which are already there offered by IIM Bangalore. So the best part is you need not sit and teach. The students can complete a MOOC course which is made a part of your curriculum. So doing that MOOC would help you focus more on what you can actually do in the classroom. Yeah, the rest of it is taken care by MOOC. So MOOC is another. Canva is where you could ask students to prepare posters online, canva.com. You just need to post a certificate. You could, there might be students interested in that. Kahoot is where you can conduct quizzes, which I'm told a lot of faculties are using Kahoot. Then there is something called Hot Potatoes. Hot Potatoes is another, so you can create crosswords and puzzles, which can make it your classroom more engaging and entertaining. There is TED-Ed. Okay, there are lots of blogs. Blog writing can be entertaining. WordPress, Tumblr, Blogger, Squarespace. They're all blogs which either you can start or ask students to start writing. Then there is Dropbox, through which you can share larger files. Doodle, okay, Candly, Seesaw. These are all, if you want to have a short meeting with the parents of your students. I mean, these are platforms, Doodle, Seesaw, and Candly, which again is freely available. And they would find it in Edmodo as well. Then Mercer and Metal is where through which we conduct the examination, which also requires a huge investment. So except LMS and Mercer Metal, I think the rest of everything is free. So in your blended classes, in your hybrid classes, you could probably utilize all of this. Then, okay, there is another 8-week program of Google for education. This is also free. It's just an 8-week course. And if you complete, if you're planning to do this Google Classroom, this really helps. Google Drive, it teaches you about Google Docs, Classroom, Form, Slide, everything they teach you in about 8 weeks, which is like in about a month. 2 months, you can complete this 8-week program and learn all the tools from Google. Yeah. So go back. That's another. So in LMS, there are quite a lot. Google Classroom, Edmodo, I think I've listed. Presentations. There are quite a lot which are not very popular. Prezi, Video, SlideBeam, Canva. Okay, Canva can also be used for presentation. I forgot to mention. Just like our Chalk and Talk, there is Whiteboard, Jamboard by Google. These are also free. Yeah, Miro, Whiteboard. To conduct quizzes, there is Quizlet, Kahoot, Mentimeter. I did that in the last session. Mentimeter is where you can actually conduct quizzes online. So that's there. For assessments, there are Wiser.me, Testmos, Google Forms, which gives you mind mapping is possible. Video conferencing, there are quite a lot. Video editing, there are quite a lot. So probably some of these in a nutshell, I'll be able to send you. If you find this interesting, a lot of these can be utilized to make your blended learning, to make your hybrid learning more impactful, more meaningful, more engaging. Yeah. So, but I've been emphasizing on this too. What is important above everything is the mental health of our students. And in fact, you're aware that countries have started thinking about setting up a separate ministry itself for happiness. Ministry of Happiness was started in UAE. Romi is as the minister for that. In fact, institutions have started thinking on those directions. I hope you are aware that University of Buckingham has started something called positive universities. Think about how do you, especially when you start discussing about the systemic restructuring. I spoke about the iceberg model, wherein you have to restructure the system. So when you restructure, think about how do you create positive universities. There is an article which I wish to share with you, how academic institutions can be made positive, especially amidst this COVID-19 and the growing, increasing automation. So those are some of the things which I wish to leave before I wind up. And this is another article, a brilliant piece from, again, World Economic Forum. That's why I was saying that World Economic Forum is something which you need to subscribe. It's again free. You just need to enter your email and other details and you get it free. An agenda for leaders to shape the future of education, gender and work. This is a report. I think it came in 2018, but it's still very relevant. Lots of insights that you would gain, and I'd skip some of these parts, which I don't wish to discuss. But before I summarize, I was talking about automation anxiety and pandemic anxiety. I don't know whether I've increased your anxiety or I could bring in a little more perspectives to how we need to approach education, but the only intention was to create a sense of coherence and make you sensitize about the need and importance of finding a purpose. So another document which, again, I have been subscribing to this, which you need to discuss in detail, is the National Education Policy. You can agree with it or disagree with it for your political reasons, but it is a document which we need to abide by, at least in the next 1 or 2 years. A lot of things, lots and lots of things that they've come up with will get implemented. And for one reason, I have respect for this new education policy, that this has come after 34 years. The last one was in 1968, and this had come after 34 years. So that in itself gives a great credit to the national. So this is another policy document which I want, because there are lots of things, whatever I discussed today, which you would find in the new education policy. So do have some discussions on that too. So this is just a quick recap. Change. We normally say the only thing that remains unchanged about change is that changes will change. Change is something which is very constant. But in the post-pandemic, in the post-automation era, or the post-fourth industrial revolution, change has become something which is extremely rapid. Second point, emotional intelligence, creativity is our last hope. Creativity, basically. And creatively, we have to engage with our professional challenges and personal challenges. Education 4.0, the third point which I wish have been discussing, is to create a purpose for the students and create impact and also happiness. When I say happiness, I'm referring to the mental happiness. And today we have the tools to deal with, and we should be fortunate that we are living in 2020, because this is a time which no other generation has enjoyed. Anything is possible with the advancements in technology. So be empowered through your constant workshops, through your constant thinking and reflecting, and whatever you're doing in your classes, in your institutions. So This is the last point which I wanted to discuss. Now, the whole purpose of this discussion was to create a cognitive dissonance. You know what a cognitive dissonance is? You know, this is what I'm borrowing from one of my professor at IIM Kozhikode. He's an organizational behavior professor called Unikrishnan. Unikrishnan sir used to say that in any workshop, in any class that you conduct, you need to create a cognitive dissonance. What is cognitive dissonance? You don't teach everything. Give them a sort of dissatisfaction. You give them a sort of abstract concept. Because if you teach everything, there stops the learning. But if you leave things abstract, if you leave it to the audience, people will be stressed and compelled. They will feel discomfort to go back and read and understand more. And that's the point which that's the intention behind this little conversation. It has not been a little conversation. Right from 10 o'clock to 12:30. It's been 2 hours, 30 minutes. We have been together. And I just wish to say thank you again for this opportunity to host this event and having me this morning. And let me take questions. This is where I wish to stop. These are some of the contacts. I would wish to stay connected, at least through LinkedIn. We can all stay connected. But at this point, I wish to take questions if there are any, so that those also gets addressed. I'm happy to address your questions.
Participants, questions, please.
Yes,
I
the
have
host, the
already raised a
organizers,
question
their
before
questions. If there
starting
are,
the
we can.
session. So I have already raised a question at the beginning of the session. You told me like you will be answering at the end of this session.
Question, please. Can you repeat the question, please?
I just asked about the read and understanding, like read and understanding and type and understanding.
Okay. See, that's the reason I said lost job gain report says that the least threat as vis-a-vis or compared to any other job is in the profession of teaching. We as faculties have a huge role in ensuring that the learning is not just about reproducing what is there in the textbook, or assignment is not just about reading or copy pasting from internet. The intention of education, the intention of learning should be to help our students understand themselves, for which I think we have to do a lot of experiments in our assignments and assessments. I do agree with the point that reading, of course, broadens your horizons, but reading itself is not enough. Reading and reflection is needed. That's where I said create assignments wherein students can collaborate and do. Create assignments wherein students can apply their mind. Create assignments wherein students can experiment and experience and learn. So reading and writing itself is not enough. Our assignments has to change. Our assessments has to change. That's the point which I wish to. I don't know whether I've answered your question. But,
thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have a small doubt, sir.
Yes,
So last time you told cognitive dissonance, whether it is applicable to all subjects.
it isn't. Well, that's an important question. But I feel cognitive dissonance, the intention of bringing that aspect in the discussion here is not is to make a student. See, there is a saying, no, you can take a horse to the river, but you can't make it drink. That thirst has to happen internally. That thirst that the horse has to feel on its own. So I always say that the role of a teacher is to not teach. The role of a teacher is to create curiosity in the minds of the students. Yeah. And that's the intention of bringing that concept of cognitive dissonance. If you teach everything, there stops the learning. But the point you raised is really valid. How feasible is it in all the subjects? For subjects like, say, mathematics, you have to sit with the student and teach them. But then how do you create cognitive dissonance in the student? Give them a problem which is more challenging than what he or she has already solved. Yeah, that increases their curiosity. So he would graduate himself to experiment that. When he reaches that level, he or she reaches that level, you create another cognitive dissonance. So that's the intention here. So it's about taking the students from one level to another, wherein you create newer challenges for the students. That's the context in which I use the word cognitive dissonance. It's not that you teach halfway or you leave your teaching or learning halfway through. That's not how, probably if I have sounded it that way, I was wrong. No, the intention is to create curiosity in the minds of the students. Two, the intention is to take the students from the level where they are to newer levels of curiosity.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any more doubts from the participants, please?
So,
Yes.
is there a question? If not, yeah, this is what I wish to leave.
Sir, can we have an official vote of thanks?
Sure. If we are done, we can have that.
Sure,
Thank you
sir.
very much
Yes.
for your patience.
It was such a wonderful session, sir. I'll just ask for the official vote of thanks. Neetu ma'am.
Respected Chief Guest, Principal, HODs, and all the participants, a very good afternoon to all. It's my privilege to propose a vote of thanks on this STTP program. On behalf of Vedavyasa Institute of Technology, I take this opportunity to thank our speaker, Mr. Rishikesh KB, Associate Professor of Christ University, for an enlightening presentation on the topic hybrid learning. Sir, the session was filled with mind-storming presentation. We understood the benefits of hybrid learning are numerous since it provides greater access to education catering for different learning styles simultaneously. I wish it will help us to alleviate some of the problems associated with student absenteeism. The former presentation showed why we should accept change in technology to update ourselves and fully understand the various benefits hybrid learning is emerging as such an important concept in this pandemic period. Also, we got an idea about the trendy managerial acronym VUCA and iceberg model and different tools and options we have. We wish the session will make the young team to feel that hybrid learning practice will have increased access to learning, reduced student absenteeism, and better use of teaching resources. And sir, the way you explain the topics with examples, it's exemplary. Thank you, sir, for all the valuable information you shared with us. Thank you once again, sir. I would
Thank you.
also like to thank our principal, Dr. Sangeeta ma'am, HOD of CSE department, Dr. S. Kavita ma'am, the management, and all the faculty members for their enthusiastic support. I also extend thanks to all the participants present here for making this session a great success. Once again, thank you all for being with us. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you.
ma'am.
Thank you very much for the
Thank you, sir.
opportunity.
Thank you, sir. That was such a wonderful session, sir. We feel we will have some more sessions with you, sir, in
Sure.
person. Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thanks a
you.
lot, and we wish lot of these ideas will be taken as by in our mind, and we will just implement that in our teaching styles, because we are yet to join with this hybrid learning concepts, because from December 20th onwards the students are coming to the campus, sir. So we will
Okay.
surely implement all these concepts what you said.
Thank you.
Thank
Happy
you, sir,
learning.
and I will
Thank you.
share all the materials what sir has given to me to all the group members.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you for joining, and thanks to Babita ma'am for giving a connection with such a nice person for us. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. To all the participants, the feedback link of this session has already been given. Kindly please give the feedback link. And I wish we will join in the afternoon session at 2 p.m. So kindly please all of you join by 1:55 p.m. for the afternoon session by Professor Anup Mathew, sir. Kindly please join by 1:55 p.m. Thanks a lot, sir, for giving us such a wonderful session once again.